It's time. You're sick of your beater car. You're sick of people staring at you with your messed up fender and bumper driving down the street. You're sick of your neighbor ready to call the police because your car exhaust is so loud it wakes everyone up at 6 a.m. in the morning. You're sick of fixing what seems like a never-ending list of parts on it. You're sick of seeing your odometer climb past 200K while thinking it's a ticking time bomb. You're sick of seeing your friends drive all the latest model cars with all the nice air conditioning, heating, cooling, and warming, massaging chairs, the iPad and the dashboard, the 12-way fancy speakers, and the push-button start. You're just sick of your car and you need to buy a new one. Well, I'm glad you feel that way. You're tuned in to the Joy Network where just owning you is your responsibility, and let's dive in. Let's face it, these new cars are nice. Some of the amenities you get in non-luxury modern day cars are pretty sweet. Stuff that you only saw in luxury cars a decade ago. Heated and cooled seats, power windows and doors, touchscreen infotainment, navigation, push button start, heated mirrors, backup cameras, mini DVD players embedded in your headrest, satellite radio phones in your car, crash prevention technology, and smartphone integration. You can find yourself buying entry-level cars, and chances are they offer at least half of the items mentioned on this list. Seriously, there are some pretty nice options to have, and if you are someone who grew up driving cars from the 80s to the early 2000s, you have already seen firsthand the major jump in technology offered in these cars. So now you're at a point in your life, you want a new car, you feel like it's time to do it. You walk into a dealer, get bombarded by everyone and their cousin asking if you needed help looking for anything in particular. Have someone help you, wait for an ungodly amount of time because your salesperson said they needed to discuss the price you tried negotiating with their manager, but really they are getting coffee and cracking jokes while they wait for your patience to dwindle. Come back with terms that you swear were either identical to your mortgage or interest rates as high as your college grad's age. Sign the paper and drive off the lot with your car only to watch as the value of it drop by 10% the second your tires hit the pavement of public roads. Sounds fun, right? Car buying can single-handedly be one of the most exciting purchases you can make, as well as one of the biggest. Because of that, it should be done with great care and a calm mind. Rushing to buy your new car, but at a 28% interest over 84 months, more often than not, you're probably going to start regretting that purchase after your first payment. Comparing buying new versus used, the pros and cons of each that help you decide which is the better option. Let's focus on new cars. Let's start with the pros first. First off, new cars are nice because they're new. It's in the name. No one has driven your car prior. As such, you get to take solace in the fact that there will be no problems caused by previous drivers. You'll feel good driving around town. People will be in awe at your shiny new car. Your family and friends will finally give you the respect you need. Okay, not really. Most people won't care, but who cares because you care? You feel good, and that's all that matters. Lower maintenance is another great reason. It should go without saying that you need to be maintaining your car. No matter how new, at some point there will be a need to maintain it to ensure the longevity of your vehicle. But newer cars typically need less since everything is, well, new. Aside from the routine tune-ups and checkups, the worries of items breaking on your car is less. Warranties is another pro. Having a warranty on your car is nice. When you buy a new car, you're getting the factory warranty that came with it. This is a plus considering that you can take advantage of the routine maintenance schedules they provide. You can also take advantage of the fact that if something breaks and is under warranty, they will fix it. Granted, you have to pay a deductible and automakers set their own deductible limits, but 9 times out of 10, those deductibles will be way cheaper than if you had to pay out of pocket. Another reason is if you're financing your vehicles, newer cars tend to have lower interest rates. There are a couple of factors that go into why the interest rates are lower. One reason is that newer cars tend to have a lower risk of repossession, which means lower risk to the lender that the borrower is going to default on their loan and get the car repossessed. Now let's move over to the cons. Starting off our cons list is depreciation is real. Like, seriously real. The value of a car typically drops 10% when your tires hit the pavement of a public road. Ouch. After the first year, expect the original value to drop by 20% or more. By year 2, you're easily approaching the 30% level. Every year afterwards is typically another 10% drop off. Now prices will stable out eventually at what the market deems proper for your car, but the initial dive down is rough. Expect that after 5 years, your car is probably worth 50 to 60% less than what you bought it for. Second item on our cons list are parts are pretty expensive on newer cars. let's face it, newer cars will still have newer parts. Newer parts will typically be more expensive. Most companies tend to use proprietary parts that can break and really be a pain to find and replace. Another item is new cars typically have kinks that haven't been fleshed out. With used cars, because of how long they've been on the road, they have had more time for people to identify common problems that may be associated with certain vehicles. From makes, models, all the way down to the year and trim. There are no surprises since others have encountered and fixed them. And on newer cars, that just simply isn't the case because, well, they're new. And last item on our cons list, they are expensive. There's no getting around this point. Newer cars are expensive. Even entry-level cars are expensive. Literally tens of thousands of dollars. This isn't cash that everyone has lying around. And even if they did, parting with it is never easy. Ironically enough, someone will go into a dealer and buy a car on a loan with interest, in some cases at absurd rates, and be okay with paying thousands of dollars extra over the lifetime of a vehicle. Quite easily, actually. But cringe at the idea of throwing the lump sum on the table to pay it off? It's an interesting topic, one that certainly warrants its own video, so be on the lookout for that one. Now we can move on to the used vehicles. Following the typical good news first and bad news fashion, we will start off with the pros. First item on our list, cheap. Used cars are always going to be cheaper than newer cars. Some used cars will be cheaper than other used cars just based off market demand surrounding a particular car. Buying a 4 to 5+ year old car will always warrant cheaper prices than the newer counterparts, on top of getting closer to the bottom of the depreciation curve. Now the second item on our list depends largely on the car, but some cars are just easier to service than others. The repairs on older cars are typically cheaper than newer cars. Older luxury cars will always be more expensive because automakers are evil and like inventing bad parts for their vehicles. But cars like Honda or Toyota have parts on older cars that are usually cheaper. Not to mention that most automakers tend to share parts among their own cars, so finding parts can not only be easier, but cheaper. Third item on our pros list is better values. They are just better values. If you're looking to get the best bang for your buck, used cars tend to be the better choice. One, they're at the lower end of the depreciation curve, so even if a car does drop in value slightly, let's say from $10,000 to $5,000, yeah, that's a 50% drop, but at least it isn't going from $26,000 to $5,000 if you had bought that same car, but when it was new. One case, you're losing $5,000. In another, you're losing $19,000. The math is pretty clear. Most used cars can have some pretty nice amenities too. Remember, at one point, they were new. Yeah, let's say you want an Apple CarPlay, but your used car doesn't have it. Well, just go buy a head unit and have someone install it. A couple $100 and you have a fancy infotainment like the new one in the brand new car you were eyeing. Buying a $26K car with Apple CarPlay versus buying a $13K one and just having someone install it for a couple $100? Most cars nowadays have heat, air conditioning, power windows, keyless entry, backup camera, basic navigations, airbags, seat belts, things that were rare back in the 80s to even early 2000s. Might even get lucky and find one with a heated steering wheel and seats. Jeez, what a time to be alive. Another item on our pros list, the main kinks of your car have already been fleshed out. Mentioned earlier in this video, used cars have been around longer, so they have a history. With that comes problems that people have encountered with and found resolutions to. Not only that, but this information can also help with deciding which car to buy, what cars are prone to more problems, and which ones have a better history of reliability. Last item on our pros list, not as worried about it getting beat on. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should abuse your car, but how would you feel if your used car got scratched or nicked on would be a lot less painful than experiencing that same damage on a newer car. With a used car, your expectations for how the appearance of the car overall is a little lower. Having less stress from seeing unwanted marks on your older car are an unexpected welcome that you would never have thought of. Now, to be fair, let's point out some of the cons of used cars. Starting off our cons list, they are used. By nature, used cars have many variables that can affect each vehicle individually. Since they have had an owner or multiple owners prior to you, could have came from different areas where the weather might have had an effect on it, you can have two cars with the same model, trim, and year, but be totally different. Some owners drive their cars hard, some baby them, others modify, and some leave them stock. The previous owners could have neglected it, so there are definitely variables that come into play when deciding a car and can make searching for the right one hard. The next item on our cons list, unknown problems. Mentioned earlier, sometimes you don't have the luxury of knowing who had owned the vehicle prior to you buying it, so you're left at a disadvantage of not knowing every single thing about the car. Now, to be fair, having a trusted mechanic or someone knowledgeable about the car tag along can really help take a lot of the guesswork out of it, but be wary that there could be gremlins hiding in the car. Next item on the list, they might need some work. When you buy a used car, maybe it's going to need a tune-up, new tires, or a multi-point inspection done on it. So you might need to put some extra cash up front after purchasing it before you can feel safe and begin to really enjoy it. Moving on to the next item, they won't have the newest gadgets and toys. Used cars might not have the latest tech that makes newer cars appealing, so you definitely won't be in the front line of what is trending. Another item to add is no warranty. Most used cars have either exceeded the miles or years since production criteria needed to qualify for the factory warranty. Now, having the factory warranty can definitely make repairs that would have generally been covered more expensive. Now, you can opt to get the extended warranties for vehicles, but to be fair, I personally don't believe they're in your best interest to purchase. Another factor to consider, if you're going to buy a car and you're going to finance it, especially a used car, the interest rates on those used cars tend to be higher, so you will be paying more in interest over the lifetime of the loan. The last item on our cons list for used cars is they aren't perfect. If the other cons haven't made that clear, let's make it clear here. Used cars are not perfect. They are going to have imperfections about them. But also keep in mind that nothing in life is perfect. To be fair, a lot of these cons are based on how the car was treated prior and where they're located. Now let's get to the conclusion of this video. Which option is the better option? The answer is, it depends. If money is not an object to you and you want to enjoy the finer things in life, then buy a newer car. Reality is that there are just some people who can afford the car. It is your money and you have the full obligation to spend it however you desire. Now, the definition for how much of a car you can actually afford is a discussion for another video. I personally believe that used cars will always be the better choice. To be fair, car buying is largely an emotional experience, not a logical experience. Very seldom can you make an argument to justify spending thousands of dollars on a vehicle with the fancy bells and whistles. At the end of the day, it is a tool that gets you from point A to point B. A lot of the other options we think we need to buy with the car are really just wants and aren't necessities. But even if you base your car buying decisions off having those extra features, buying a used car provides the best deal. Able to save thousands of dollars on the last gen model is hard to argue. Also, don't forget that once a new car is bought, it becomes a used car. If you enjoy what we do here and want to see more content like this, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to get updated on our new releases. Thanks.